Excellent. All right, and we're back.
Better than ever.
So, sorry for all of the views of the office that we just gave you, but I want to welcome you to this discussion. We're in our Lexington office. It's on Newtown Pike, maybe 2 miles from Fasig-Tipton, where the Lexington Standardbred yearling sale takes place the first week of October. And we're excited to be here. This is our only get out of the house time, is when we're in here together working. We're trying to follow all the rules, but here we are. The farm is just down the road, maybe
10 miles?
10 miles in Scott County, and what mostly takes place there, it's run by Gina Daly, and it's mostly just a yearling prep facility and a place to raise young horses. So we just got this Lexington office more for the business side going, and kind of want to welcome you all to it. And if you ever want to stop by when you're in Lexington, feel free. We'll have plenty of ice cold Coca-Cola classics, as many as you can drink. But no, this place is going to be a place where you meet with clients and have discussions with partners and breeding clients and that kind of thing. So, and that's why we're here today. Talk about a little bit of breeding business.
We love it, like we do every day.
Yeah, so this is just a little invitation into our world. We got some questions for you all. We're just going to jump right in. One of the questions we got the most was about inbreeding versus outcrossing, and what's too close, how to choose your mare. I mean, I think we both have different thoughts, come at it from different angles. So
you're going to pass it off to me now?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it depends on the situation. I think you can find instances of everything. You can find horses, if you go to thoroughbreds, you can find famous horses like a Navel, who's bred 2-3 to Sadler's Wells. You can find stallions that are bred 2-4 like Muscles Yankee and Yankee Glide to Speedy Crown. You can find Rock and Roll Hanover being bred 3-3. So you can find all these instances where horses are bred close, and you find horses like, Chapter 7, who's bred, the closest is 4x4 Hickory Smoking. Who's Hickory Smoking, right?
Good tidbit there. Like talking about thoroughbreds versus standardbreds, thoroughbreds, there's such an opportunity to outcross versus inbreed compared to standardbreds. Like a famous horse everybody knows, like Secretariat, virtual outcross. Famous horse everybody knows, like California Chrome.
Complete outcross.
Is outcross, except for inbreeding a little ways black to Mr. Prospector, So when you switch from picking your thoroughbred stallions that you're going to breed your thoroughbred mares to the standardbred side, and this has been a challenge for me coming from the thoroughbreds to the standardbred side, your options are so limited, and you're virtually inbreeding at least at 4x4, which when we say 4x4, that just means that there is a like ancestor 4 generations back from your perspective foal.
One on the top side, one on the bottom side.
Yeah, if you have it within just the daddy side or sire side, or just in the mama side or dam side, you wouldn't call it that necessarily. But when we're looking at that inbreeding and like ancestors with standardbreds, we virtually have no option but to inbreed, And so I think the question becomes, who do you like to inbreed to? And especially on the pacing side, it seems like there's vastly varying opinions on inbreeding to this horse versus that horse. Do I want to inbreed to Arts Place? Do I like to inbreed to Western Ideal? It's amazing. I've heard so many different opinions.
Well, I think the business gets itself into a corner, right? Yeah. And I think this has happened well before we ever started. And then the sire comes along that sort of gets you out of that corner.
Yeah.
Some Beach was that horse, right? He, being by Mach 3, was sort of an outcross, and he allowed all these other horses that had been bred close to find that outcross sire. Now you're talking about some of his sons, like Captain Treacherous, down by the seaside, horses like that becoming the next generation. They're going to start breeding with one another pretty soon, and then you're going to have to find the other horse that outcrosses with them. I think we just do this. You end up liking certain crosses. They seem to work well for the industry, and then you just you'll breed your way out of it. Everybody seems to get upset, but back to your point about like what's too close. Like we just got a call in here the other day, right?
Oh yeah, we get these about people maybe not realizing how close they're breeding. You know, people that have been around forever and know what they're doing. You know,
Somebody was asking 2x2.
yeah, it was 2x2 to Andover Hall. You know, creatine, stallion, Diamond Creek stands in Ohio. They were asking about creatine breeding. We looked the mare up, and the mare's, you know, the dam is by Andover Hall. And 2x2, ask Adam, you know, 2x2, you know, we usually say 2x3 at the absolute closest, 3x3 in most cases at the closest. You know, I think certain phenomenal individuals like an Enable on the thoroughbred side open our eyes to 2x3 and its merits, but you know, 2x2, Adam, have you ever done 2x2? Just curious, you bred 1,000 horses or more. Has a 2x2 ever happened?
Yeah, we had we had a mare right on Renee who had been booked. She's an Andover Hall mare. We had her book the credit winner. It was in the books, everything like that.
Good choice.
Yeah, exactly. So at the time it was perfect. And we ended up putting her in the sale. And we listed her, you know, having been bred to credit winner. And then, you know, start peeling back the layers and realize, oh crap, I bred her to a Swan for All, right? Who's the son of Andover Hall. So at the sale, actually it was Perry Soderbergh who came over and said, like, I think this mare's 2x2. I was like, oh shit, I'm screwed.
And she didn't have 5 legs.
No,
and 3
exactly.
tails.
So we sold her like that. We ended up telling everybody, but whoever ended up buying her ends up getting this horse. They named him All on Black, and I think he's
all
made.
on black.
I think he's made a couple, maybe 400,000. So you
Successful
never know.
racer.
Exactly. But.
Now he may not be fertile, but
Right.
you know, I think that goes to show you people always want a definitive answer from us. Like, okay, Adam, if you're an expert at breeding, is this the best cross for my mare? Even Adam, even someone else like Adam who's bred this many horses cannot ever tell you whether it's right. There's too many variations with genetics. You know, if you get into the science of it,
You try to avoid those things like 2x2 if at all possible. And if somebody had pointed that out, I obviously would not have done
Never.
that. But it ended up working out for those people that ended up buying it. So I think they got a pretty good deal.
yeah, what an outlier. Like, that's a Malcolm Gladwell Freakonomics thing, if you've never heard it. You know, it brings me back to the stories, you know, and listening to the great Ontario breeder, Dr. Mike Wilson. You know, you remember when we went and had lunch with him and visited his operation? Actually, it was the day before Warwee Butte won the Breeders' Crown this past year in Canada, which he bred Warwee Butte to an older mare. And I think when we went there, I think we found out that there was more to him than we ever thought. You know, we knew that he was a doctor, didn't know what he was a doctor of, but the thought processes for him were probably as scientific as any breeder we run into, because we found out his background is, I believe, a PhD in swine genetics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So he studied husbandry with swine, and you know, he talks about hybrid vigor is his term, hybrid vigor. And I was like, what the heck is this term? I'd never heard it, you know. Now, granted, I didn't have as much biology as like a biology major like Adam, but I never heard of this hybrid vigor. And the way he explains it is fascinating, but it's essentially this concept that when you take a father and a mother, a sire and a dam, and you produce a foal, as a breeder, you're trying to achieve hybrid vigor.
You're supposed to take the best from one and the best from another, right? And make the next generation better than the previous generation.
So hybrid vigor is exactly that the next generation, that resulting foal is actually better than the parents.
And he got it right. Like, Warwee Butte was better than Great Memories and better than Sweet Lou at this point.
Well, she did beat his 2-year-old record.
Exactly.
Sorry, Mark Weaver.
Exactly.
But I know you love it too. And you know, speaking of Sweet Lou, it's a great example of this change that you're talking about with the stallions. You know, Sweet Lou and Always Be Mickey. These are from sires that you may not have expected were going to produce the next great stallion, but they're showing that, you know, I think Always Be Mickey and Sweet Lou's had the chance to prove himself already, that they are an evolution of the breed. And so, like, we never probably would have thought that Some Beach Somewhere might give us, that Mach 3 might give us Some Beach Somewhere, the next top stallion. Right. You know, where is the next top stallion coming from? It's probably coming from a pedigree or a sire line that you wouldn't guess.
But this sort of answers a question that somebody had posted earlier about, is it whose fault, not whose fault, but whose responsibility is it the mare or the stallion, right? And in both of those cases, in Sweet Lou especially, the female family is amazingly important to the development of the next generation. And we look at that all the time when we go look at mares or fillies to race, or you know, as we're looking to improve our stock, it's always add to the top and take from the bottom. And the female family is important. I mean, Sweet Lou's family right now, with the development of not only him, Better Sweet was a great racehorse. You Are My Candy Girl and Captain Crunch. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is loaded. It might be the best. I mean, Jim Averett might argue that his families are just as good, but
maybe the Art Stopper crowd might have something to say.
Yeah, exactly. But Mickey comes from a great female family. And Tall Dark Stranger comes from a great female family. And the whole, I mean, all these horses come from a lot of them come from great female families.
Yeah, I think you've done a good job with these pacing sires, especially of making sure you got the ones with that super strong female blood. I mean, a lot of people forget that's half of the genetics. You know, everybody's so focused on sires because that's what drives the commercial market. And that's something that we can hone in on. But, you know, we got to give that at least half the weight to that female side in every way. I know somebody asked about temperament. Did you have any thoughts about that? Because I think it's probably one of the most overlooked things when pedigree matching.
Yeah, I think for me, it's near the bottom of the list, but we breed to sell a lot of our stuff. And I mean, yeah, we have some racehorses and we breed some for homebreds, but it's probably something that I haven't thought about, but maybe need to include as part of the package. And I think if you're breeding to race yourself, I think it's more important than maybe for us.
Yeah, like where we don't physically train these babies down, and we don't deal with their temperament hands-on as much. Now, granted, when they're being raised, we do, and I think we know, and we won't necessarily call it any names, but I think we know some sire lines that are known for being a little hot. Yeah. Right? And I don't know that you'd always maybe not breed to another sire line that's known for being hot. You know, maybe that's too much hotness, you know, but like, I think that it would come into play for a smaller breeder who can really analyze a big choice a lot more. Whereas we have so many mares we have to breed that maybe we have to do some more broad strokes with things.
Sure, I think the big commercial farms probably don't take that into account as much as maybe a smaller breeder, like you said, that's breeding to race. I mean, we have a bunch of clients like that breed primarily to race, right? And I think they need to maybe take that into account.
For sure. Now, the whole question, we get it all the time, what about breeding to a multiple studs, or to the same stud multiple years in a row? And I know you have some rules for yourself on this, and I have stuff that I tell people.
Well, let's hear your
thoughts. Well, and you know, everybody's got to understand, when it comes to standardbred breeding, 99% of what I've learned has come from him. And then I've picked up some other things from some other really, really smart people, you know, Steve Stewart's and Stefan Balassi's of the world, and the list goes on and on. You know, people have been so kind and open with me. But the breeding to one stallion for multiple years in a row, in the standardbred business, we see it all the time. I don't know how many times you see, you know, 4, 5, even 6 years in a row. We've gone to the same stallion, especially with, say, the Sun Beach. Yeah. And I tell people, 2, don't go 3 in a row. You know, that's just kind of a general rule of thumb.
Unless there's a reason. If the fallings have been spaced out over a number of years, and you know the first one sold really well, is training well, something along those lines. I'm like you, 2 maximum, maybe 3. I mean, even a great mare like Western Montana for us, who produced Pure Country, and her 4th foal, or her 3rd foal was at Sun Beach, her 4th foal was at Sun Beach, and then we never went back.
But I think most people would have literally bred her to Sun Beach every year without even thinking twice. Yeah. Because there's not that many options. You got a top mare like that, there's not many options at the top. You know, it's kind of like 1 + 1 = 2 with the least amount of risk.
But we've never sold any yearlings by her, and so ours was a different. Pure Country was an anomaly at some level, right? A freak's probably never gonna recreate that, even if we went to some beach every single year. And so for us, it was more about like, if she was going to give us another one and we're going to race it, it might as well be from one of our stallions, right? So we got Grand Teton, made $500,000, mark of 48-1, right? Helps put him on the map.
Yeah.
And so sometimes our decision making is different than, say, a market breeder.
No doubt. Do we got any questions coming in live here?
Who's Sean?
That's a good question.
Why don't you introduce yourself again to all the people who joined late?
I'm Sean Lungani. You say it like mowing the lawn. I've only been around since fall of 18. Basically fell in love with the sport in recent years. 2016, 2017 were big for me. You know, I'm going to ask Caroline, who's our marketing director, if I can write something for everybody about my experience the day that Always Be Mickey set the world record at the Red Mile, because that was a big day for me, converting from thoroughbreds to standardbreds. And, you know, down by the seaside was a huge reason I'm here. But basically the farm hired me back in the fall of 18 to do like bloodstock services work. So, you know, some days I'm more or less just a booking agent, but the whole idea is that I just help our clients and keep up with our clients, you know, because the farm will breed over 900 mares this year to the Diamond Creek Stallions. So just to assist in that area, you know, all the bloodstock stuff, I try to be involved as much as I can, and I'm still learning, especially on the racing side, but just been grateful to be a part of the team and, you know, just get to learn and be helpful anywhere I can be. My skills are mostly with relationships, talking to people, getting out traveling, looking at horses. I made a big effort to look at as many horses as possible of both breeds over the last decade, and I've looked at hundreds. And so I go to the thoroughbred sales, standardbred sales, and we actually met through our wives who went to college together. They were sorority sisters, and we probably met, it's been
10 years?
10 years at least ago. And it wasn't until we connected on horses that we got to be better friends. And so then
but I think it developed too over time, right? I mean, like, we dabble in thoroughbreds, have 10 or so here and in Europe. And I think, like, you see, and I say this to him all the time, but and other people that talk to me may know this, like, thoroughbreds just sometimes just do stuff better than we do, right? So don't try to reinvent the wheel, right? So we took some of the things that they do, and like he was selling cars or buying cars at the time for a wholesale guy in Nashville, and thought, hey, take your passion, take what you're good at, and let's use some of the things that thoroughbreds do, and, you know, brought him on board to do those kind of things, like reach out to customers, which we hadn't done a great job of at the time. You know, our stallion business was in its infancy, and we're sort of figuring stuff out. Bring you on board to sort of help seal the deal for a lot of people, and sort of build those relationships. And I think that's a key part of our progress and our evolution.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I appreciate that this farm's willing to change, even though they've done a lot of things really well for quite a while now. And so, you know, being involved on the phone, connecting, you know, client management was right in my alley, because I've been in like financial services and cars and sales, a lot of sales over my years. But I always want to be in the horse business. You know, I went to UK and I started out in animal science, quickly learned I was not smart enough to get through that program. So I went to the thing I liked next best, which was outdoors, and did environmental science. And so worked as a consultant there for a long time, but it was always, the horses were always in my mind. I mean, from just a fan standpoint, you know, and even just gambling on the horses at the racetrack, you know, just absolutely loved being at the racetrack and following racing. And so this is a dream come true for me. If you have any questions, this is something we do. We offer this for free. Pedigree evaluation, pedigree matching, any questions you have, hit us up. You can find me on Facebook. You can find us. Hit us up. We are willing to help you. If you have questions you don't think are getting answered, you know, with your contacts you have.
We've been doing that for years for a lot of different people.
Good
People
on
will
you.
call and say, what do you think about this? Or, you know, help me find a stallion for my mare. And, you know, I think people have had relatively good success on that. So
and we're trying to be unbiased. You know, if we think your mare's best for a stallion that's not with Diamond Creek, we're going to tell you that so that you'll respect that, and then maybe come give us a chance with one of those stallions the following year. So,
Oh, you got a question here from Matt. It says, "What is your opinion on the Big Towner blood?"
I mean, we get that with Always Be Mickey, right? We get a lot of Big Towner crossing, and I think Big Towner, Town Pro, like those are that's very potent blood from what I see with my limited experience. So like I'm big on when the Big Towner crosses.
It's hard not to,
and
right?
I haven't like studied it a ton, but what are your thoughts?
Well, he shows up 3x3 on Mickey, right, himself.
Right,
And
which is like what a superior individual Mickey is.
And I think anybody that has watched racing, right, you saw Sun Beach come along and he was great.
Yeah.
And I think like the next horse to be that great horse was Always Be Mickey, right? He took speed to the next level. Like Mark may argue that Sweet Lou did that, right? And Sweet Lou did. I mean, he won 6 races in a row in sub 48.
Both superior individuals.
Right, exactly. And both are this different type of breeding.
Yeah.
Now,
fingers crossed for Diamond Creek.
I mean, we're excited about our young stallions. I mean, Mickey is coming out with his first 2-year-olds, and so is Frank and Creatine. And Lou's had a great start to his career. I mean, he's won 3 Breeders' Crowns in two crops. So, and Patrick is Patrick. Yeah, that's what we always say. Patrick will take care of himself. But yes, we love Big Towner blood. He shows up in Mickey, and I think you'll see a lot more of that over the next couple of years.
If you have a mare that has some Big Towner blood, check out Always Be Mickey.
Yeah.
Like I really have been pretty bullish with the people who have Big Towner blood in their mares to try to breed to Mickey, because I think that's a good well to go to.
You want to answer some more?
Sure. What we got?
Who's the best trotter or pacer?
Ooh.
Like, are we talking racehorses?
Let's separate that into categories. So,
Okay.
Let's say who's the best current trotter of any
Racing?
age. Then let's say who's the best current pacer of any age.
Mm-hmm.
Like who do we least want one of our racehorses, stable horses to face? Like who are we the most scared of? I know my answer is already like bam, no problem.
And you go.
Jim Panzee. I think he's the toughest trotter currently in training. Huge fan. Love his gait. Love everything about him. I think this past year he was put into a tough spot many times, and boy did he show his grit and guts. What more can you ask for from a trotting horse? Everybody knows I love Jim Panzee. I was just talking to SRF. Shout out to SRF this morning about how much I love Jim Panzee. So pacer. There's so many good age pacers and some that have just retired and all that, right? But
I know who you're going to back.
yeah, I mean, like Better's Wish is doing the training / stallion duty thing right now. And to me, that horse has some of the most incredible lungs that I've seen since I've been following this sport. And I think he is tough as nails.
And we've heard good reports, right? I mean, you talked to Dr. Mears at Walnridge, and like even though he's breeding a limited book, like he seems to be doing a great job so far. So
we love
good
Chris
on them.
Ryder and that whole ownership group and Eric Cherry and everything. So good on you.
Okay, who's mine?
I mean, do you differ from
Racing
me?
wise? Not trotter wise.
Yeah.
Jim Panzee, hands down. I mean, I approached Courant when he was a 2-year-old and asked to buy in, and I've been trying to ever since. So call me. But no, he was the horse I always wanted, and we chased after Green Shoe, and kudos to Hanover for locking that out.
Good
because
job,
he was a great horse. But Jim Panzee's always been that horse for me ever since I saw him race.
He's something.
Yeah.
Pacer, I think you probably have a different idea than I do.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to reserve my opinion.
All right.
Because I'm going to upset.
I know who he wants to say, but he's not going out there.
He's not going to do it. Not until we get stallion deals done. And then I may answer the question.
Right. Could we go a little bit further and could we say who's the best? Let's say who's the best recently retired well, let's just say who's your favorite trotter of all time? Like, stallions you stand, everything aside, like as a fan, who's your favorite trotter of all time?
That's a good question.
Oh, y'all stumped them.
Yeah, now you stumped
There
me.
we go to another question. We'll get that.
No, I'll do it. Like my heart wants to say Patrick, right?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you can say Patrick.
Yeah. My emotional answer
That's Father Patrick.
is Father Patrick. Partly because I trust Jimmy Tactor a lot. I mean, we've had great horses with him over the years, and for him to say, like, he's the most perfect horse or most complete horse that he's ever
You've always
had,
told me that. And
right? And Jimmy's a great spokesman for his horses. Always has been and always will be. And again, I haven't been around as long as some of these guys that have been around 50, 60
Yeah.
years and have seen all the horses. But like
In your
Maclo
lifetime.
Bell was great to watch. I mean, I was a kid when he was winning some of these races in the late 80s. So it's either Maclo Bell or Father Patrick for me.
Stay tuned on who he decides.
Exactly. Let's see. When will Diamond Creek send a stud to Ontario?
That's a
We've
great
actually
question. We
had conversations this past fall about doing so. But we want to make sure it's the right horse for the area, right?
No doubt.
And the horse for us. And like we feel confident that we know who we would stand the horse with, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But it would be the right horse. But yeah, I think it's sometime in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I would say that's, it all depends on what comes, right? But that's probably a good guess. And for us, that'll give us some more time to learn the market up there. We already service a ton of Canadian breeders and have contacts, but there's more. I think we miss out on some of the smaller breeders in Ontario with our stallions and whatnot, who maybe don't import. So there's more for us to learn, and we're excited to do that. We made some good contacts up there, and we really need to get back up there after this virus is over and spend some time. This virus has really put business in a bind. Do you want to talk about what you think about the outlook for? Is anybody asking about?
Well, yeah, Greg's asking about how this is going to affect breeders, right, moving forward. So you might be able to answer, like, has there been a pushback from breeders since the virus has come on? I mean, are we losing bookings?
I mean,
are we gaining bookings?
Caroline probably tracks this the closest for us, but from my perspective, it's been a surprise, because I think when there's so much fear, and when this was all coming down, there were moments where we didn't know if FedEx was going to continue to run or if domestic flights would continue to go. We didn't know in that early going if we were going to be allowed on the roads after a certain time. It was a very scary time. I hope we don't go back to where our brains were at that moment. But so we were kind of bracing for the worst. What if
those are the contingency plans that we need to put in place, right?
No,
I mean,
no.
you said we have over 900 clients.
Yeah, and
And our job's to make sure they get the semen. So we had couriers set up, and we were going to basically be able to drive this semen everywhere.
It's been great. Luckily we're in the agricultural sector, so it's been considered essential. And thank the good Lord for the breeders who continue to do their work, because I don't really think that we've seen a dip in semen orders or breeding activity. I mean, maybe a little bit here and there. It's harder to get the semen to people, but it's still happening. Thank you to all the breeders that are making those arrangements and getting that done.
But it's not just our top stallions, right? It's not just the full ones.
Yeah.
It's even the guys that are breeding to horses like a Rock and Roll Dance and Creatine, Lost in Time, are guys that maybe we're meeting end users' needs, right? I mean, these are the guys that are breeding to race, and they're still booking.
Yeah, in fact, like I was telling Adam, I think there's even been a slight increase in new bookings once everything settled down into a routine with the coronavirus, and I think that's due to this the training track, or not the training tracks, but the actual racetracks being closed. People who have mares that were questionable to make a comeback, or weren't earning a lot of money racing anyway, and now all of a sudden they have no races. They're in that financial position where they're deciding whether they're worth breeding or not. So we're getting a lot of questions about, hey, look at this mare, is it worth breeding? So it's been interesting.
That's good, but we've also gotten racehorses too, right? I
Some
mean,
good ones,
as racing has kind of ground to a halt.
Yeah.
People are kind of, hey, I need to find something to do for our mares. So anybody that does have mares that aren't racing, that maybe want to find them,
give us a call. Yeah. I mean, to us, like, depending on when you think racing's coming back, if your mare's a valuable brood mare, you may put yourself in a better position. I know yesterday somebody asked me, do mares race better when they're in foal? You know,
Some people actually think
some
so.
some people think that the hormones get going and that they actually are tougher when they're in foal. So don't be surprised if you end up watching some mares that are in foal racing whenever
summer.
we get back. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, let's see what else we can find here. If 2 or more stallions are a good fit for your mare, what would be your deciding factor?
It's a great question.
We get this though.
Yeah.
I mean, people call and say, "Hey, I like your stallion, and I like so and so stallion."
That's a great question. You know, my thoughts are usually based more on marketability, commercial ability, and then who you're working with. You know, I think that if you are in that position, you want to, if you're a commercial breeder, you know, you need to get really into the data and think about your risk and where you think the trends are going. And what you think the market's looking for. Because I think all of us are trying to guess 2 years from now, 3 years from now, what is that end user looking for?
Sure.
You know, and all we can do is guess because we don't know. We can just look backwards and then try to project forwards. If I'm that breeder and there's 3 that are good for me, you know, I'm thinking about stud fee and my return on investment. I'm thinking about which farm I have the relationship with, and then the you know, the accessibility and the quality of the product I'm going to get when I order my semen. What about you?
I can't disagree with that. That was perfect. Let's see. Why is Better's Delight still at the top of his game year after year? He's more than 20 now, and he still throws these good, not only older horses, but 2-year-olds as well, especially the last couple of years.
I mean, he is on a little
he's
rocket boost right now.
But he's been like this. I mean, ever since
Yeah.
he started, he has been that horse that you can reliably go to every single year and get those type of horses from.
Amazing.
You know, the fillies like Darwin's Delight and My
Yeah.
Little Dragon. I mean, not My Little Dragon. What am I doing?
Yeah, like as a broodmare sire, he's got a lot.
He has a ton of them, but then he gives you these colts now, right?
Yeah.
It started with some of Casey's colts, like Better Than
Mhm.
Cheddar and Stag Party and Betting Line, and now it's Better's Wish and
Yeah.
Tall Dark Stranger.
Shout out to Weaver's horse, All Bets Off, even.
Yeah.
You know, the list goes on and on. I mean, he's putting stallions in the sons of his in the shed.
But he's rare. He's doing it
Yeah.
not only here, but he's doing it down under in Australia and New Zealand. I mean, he's just had a tremendous impact there and here. I mean,
He's
some
a legend
some
at
some
this
beach
point.
might be that horse that everybody aspires to do, but Better's Like gets forgotten about,
No
without
doubt.
question.
We were looking at his career the other day and analyzing it, and it really has been wavy. You know, like, remember we looked at it, like, he came out of the
But
gate
going up
and-
over time in chunks. Yeah.
And it hasn't just been this straight line, which is really interesting. There's been some dips, and I argue with Adam all the time about his commercial value if you breed to him this year. My argument is that this coming year, this year as we're in 2020 fall yearling sales, that his average is going to be way up based on how well horses like Tall Dark Stranger have done. Adam, I think you've argued to me that, well, Tall Dark had already done a lot before the fall yearling sales last year,
Yep.
and the averages may be lower than what you would expect for a stallion that great.
Yeah, I think he doesn't necessarily give you, and I think everybody knows this that goes to this, he doesn't give you the greatest sale horse. But there's a lot of buyers out there that are getting great value buying his yearlings
Heck yeah.
too, because he gives you that durability, the toughness. I think they train down relatively easy too. You know, other people could comment on that better than I could, but he is that horse that going to give you the same type of individual year after year, and they're going to be good on the track.
Wow, we've already put in 40 minutes here, so this is going by fast. This has been great, guys. Thanks. We may do another one sometime, different topics, but thanks for joining in.
Creatine to move to Canada here.
Creatine to Canada.
Well,
Interesting.
who knows?
We are excited if we ever get back to racing here for these creatine 2-year-olds. The first one's out. What was that, Herb?
I don't know. We'll answer all. I mean, if we answered all these questions,
Is there
we'd be
any
here for a
that
couple
stick
more
out we
days.
could
No,
get
but
into real quick?
No, but you've always won. I mean, we drive to Pennsylvania together all the time. We spend 8 hours together, and he continuously reminds me that we need to start a podcast. So maybe this is episode 1.
We'd love that. I think that'd be so fun. I like this interaction, and we appreciate you guys I would let's just wrap it up with
Yeah.
this whole market outlook right now. I think that's probably at the forefront of everybody's mind. Why don't you give me your outlook for racing and your outlook for yearling sales?
Best case, I hope that racing is back in some capacity in May. Somewhere.
Nice, wouldn't it?
Sometime in May, if racing is back, and I think everybody knows that, right? Everybody knows that racing is going to come back without fans.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Right.
I mean, maybe until the fall, right? That's probably the most likely thing.
But if we can get racing back in some form in May, I mean, thoroughbreds, have done it relatively successfully in Florida and in Arkansas, and in weird places like Nebraska.
Yeah,
and
Bonner Park,
Oklahoma. So ideally May, and then I think you have a slow trickle down from there to all the smaller tracks. But it'd be nice to get a place like the Meadowlands open by May sometime. If Canada would get back in action in May or in early June, it would be great. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying
we're pretty
I hope
positive
that.
over here because that's the only way to be right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's too much talk about things being shut down until 2022. I saw an article yesterday. I mean, who can think that way?
Yeah.
So yearling sale wise, I mean, you think it's going to be current dates onward and upward, or?
I think at this point there isn't any reason to not do that. I mean, Keeneland has decided that they're going to stick with their September sales, so we come up after that. I would assume that we're going to be in the same boat, but it may look different, and I think everybody needs to be okay with that. And we're okay with that. So.
Yeah, let's all adapt, people, and let's try to get through this together. We'll look forward to seeing you around whenever we get to see you, whether it's on here or at the races or the yearling sales. Feel free to give us a call. I think the phone's been a great tool during this time.
Absolutely, just checking in with people, right, and continuing those relationships.
We want to know. We want to hear from you. Know how you're doing during all this. If you have questions about the yearling sales, booking to a stallion, anything related to Diamond Creek, feel free to reach out.
What else? Let's do this again.
Yeah, let's do it again. Appreciate you guys.
Shoot us some questions between now and maybe we'll do it again next week.
You never know. We kind of got some time on our hands.
Exactly.
So,
we can't go anywhere,
and
we're the only adults that we see. I mean, you see your family, I see my family, and this is about as close as.
This is the closest I've been to you in a long time.
Yeah, exactly. We're way too close, by the way.
We're kind of breaking some rules here, but it's for you all. So, thanks, guys. Have a great day. Stay safe, and we appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, thanks again.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.